that everyone tonight will be blessed. That everyone tonight will be conscious, so that by the time this prayer, by the time this meeting finish, that everyone will be blessed. The only way that a person can be strong beyond their physical limitation, the only way that you and I and everyone who wants to be strong can be strong above our weaknesses, limitation, about the things that sometimes you see, you feel, or you hear. The only thing that we can be strong is having the assurance, is having a living faith. The only way that we could overcome is by faith. And the Bible goes to say that without faith, it is impossible to please God. You know what Jesus and his disciples walked here on earth? The only way that they were able to heal the sick, to cast out demons, the only way that they were able to overcome everything that was against them, it was through faith, and it was by faith. That's the only way that they were able to overcome. That's the only way that they were able to do miracles, to go from one place to another place, or from one level into another level. It was by faith. And if we want to overcome, we have to live by faith. And you might say, Pastor, what do you mean to live by faith if I believe in God? If I grow up in the church? If I grow up in a religion? If I read the Bible? If I pray? What do you mean that we should live by faith? Well, the only thing that can make a person strong and to overcome adversity is faith. That's the only thing. If you are in faith, if you are trusting God, that means you're strong. That means you're moving forward. In spite of the things that are coming your way, in spite of what you are listening, what you are seeing, you are moving forward. Because that's the only thing that can make a person overcome or make a person strong, faith. So if you are moving forward, if you find yourself being strong in spite of all the adversity of what is coming against you, that means you are living by faith. And that's what we need to overcome. There are many people who goes to church, who pray, who sing, but are faithless people. How do I know that I am a faithless person? It's when I found myself in front of the adversity and I don't do nothing about it. It's when I found myself in front of the giant, the mountain, and I don't do nothing about it. It's when I go along with the program according to what everyone is doing, and I don't go against the currents. I don't go against the waves that are coming against me, the current that is trying to push me back. If I'm not doing this, that means we are a faithless people. That means we have a church, we have a pastor, we give tithe, we give all, but we are a faithless people. I can go to church and do everything and yet be faithless. Unless I be faithless, and when the situation comes for me to believe and trust in God, I become paralyzed. You could see what are the symptoms of someone being faithless. When the position comes, they become paralyzed. They lose their mind. They get overly upset or angry or discouraged, or they give up. That means that the person is faithless. Failure not because of the lack of evidence that God is able to do it, but because the person in action, lack of action, lack of doing something to change the situation, making an excuse that I am like this because of this, or blaming somebody because of the situation that they're going through. That's inaction. That's not taking action. That's not doing anything about it, but complaining, blaming somebody, and just not doing anything about it, giving up. That means that you and I can be a person who pray, who go to church, but at the same time be a faithless person. And as I said before, not for lack of evidence that God is not able to do it. Sorry. But for lack of taking action. For lack of not doing anything about it to change the situation. The easiest thing to do is to complain. Is to blame somebody. Is to lose your head. Is to get overly angry, upset, but not to change the situation. Not to do nothing about it, but keep being paralyzed by the problem. And don't get me wrong, you could pray 10 times a day. I can pray 20 times a day and still be a faithless person. Because being a faithless person have nothing to do with God not hearing, answering your prayer. But have much to do with me not doing anything about it. But keep following, doing the same thing, over and over and over and waiting for different results. Or just simple blaming somebody. You remember last week I spoke about when King David came back from war, and when he came back home with all his soldiers, his captain, his general, they found out that the enemy have come and taken his children, their wife, and destroy everything. The easiest thing to do was what his companion did. They begin to blame him and say, it is your fault that they came and took our wife, took our children, took our home, destroy and burn everything, and now it is your fault. That was the easiest things to do. Complain or blame somebody. But the opposite of what those people around him did. And you got to be careful, because if you don't have influence over the complainer will have influence over you. If you don't have influence over somebody who's always complaining, the complainer will make you a complainer. If you talk, walk, live with somebody who is always complaining, and that person does not become a person of faith, the person most likely you become a complainer. You become a murmurer. Instead of that person becoming a person of faith, you become a complainer. That mindset will rob on you. And instead of you doing something, or we doing something like David's companion, David's men of war who went to war with him, instead of them doing something, they say, it is your fault, David. But opposite to what they did, David encouraged himself on God. And instead of being faithless like his people around him, he stood up and said, I gotta do something about it. Nothing is gonna change for me getting angry, complaining, blaming. I have to do something about it. And what I have to do it in faith. I cannot do it out of anger, out of fear, out of this. What I have to do it because I believe that something will turn around. So you and I have a choice to become a complainer, a murmurer, or become a person who takes action, who do something about it. It is a choice. It's not because that God loves some people and he don't love others. He loves everyone. It's just some tend to do something about it, and some others don't do anything whatsoever, but they just go with the flow. So as I often say, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to follow the crowd, go with the flow, go with a water current going down the stream? Or are we going to go against the flow, against the current, against the crowd? What are we going to do? Jesus found himself among a faithless generation. His disciples found themselves, don't get me wrong, the people around Jesus were very religious. They had a church, They had a pastor, they had a religion, but even though they have those things, they were a faithless generation. Jesus found himself in the midst of a faithless generation. Yet, he did not allow the Spirit to rub on him. He shook off the spirit or the mindset. To make it clear, he shook off the mindset and he did something about it. What are you going to do? What are we going to do? I talk about what I live. I'm not talking about what a pastor or what I saw a pastor preaching or I'm sharing what I am living. Because if you are a person of faith, you share what you live. And that's what changed people's life. So I'm talking to you, not something that I read as somebody, is what I'm living each and every day. And many of you will find yourself in the midst of a faithless people. You either join them or you either shake it off, the mindset, and go against them. So the situation can change. I have a clear example here in the screen of your computer, on the screen of your cell phone. I want to share with you from the book of Exodus. Let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 10, verse 15. And it reads like that. It reads clearly. He said, as the Egyptian army approached, the people left Egypt. But in their way to freedom, they found themselves with their army that enslaved them behind them. And in front of them, they found themselves with the Red Sea. So it says, as the Egyptian army approached, the people of Israel saw them far in a distance, speeding after them. And they were terribly frightened and cried out to the Lord to help them. You see, they cry out, they pray. They pray waiting for God to do something that they themselves were supposed to do. That often happen with religious people. And they turn against Moses. Look, the people who believed that Moses was their leader, that's what happened with faithless people. They turn against those who are in faith. They turn against, how can they turn against the man who was being used by God to help them? They turn against, that's what happened when people go to situation beyond their control. They begin to snap and turn against the person that is next to them. That's called faithless people. And not because of lack of God not being in the midst of them, but that's for lack of not doing anything. And they turn against Moses. And look what he said. Have you brought us out here to die in this desert? Because there were not enough graves for us in Egypt. In another word, you took us out of Egypt so we could die here like dogs. Of course, when somebody don't do anything, they have to find somebody to blame. It is clear. It's not what I'm saying. It's what is written in there. He said, why do you make us leave Egypt? Why do you make us do this? Isn't this what we told you while we were slaves, to leave us alone? In another word, this was your idea. That was not my idea. It is you who have the idea. The blame game. You know, when I became conscious, not religious, because I spent many years in the church preaching, singing Amazing Grace, but I wasn't conscious. I realized that I need to take responsibility for my own action. My own action. I need to take responsibility for my own action. And look what he said. I'm going to repeat. He said, isn't this what we told you while we were slaves, to leave us alone? We said that it will be better for us. It will be better to be slave to the Egyptian than dead in the wilderness. Ungrateful people. They say we were better before we make that step forward. But Moses told the people, don't be afraid. Just stand where you are and watch, and you will see the wonderful way the Lord will rescue you today. The Egyptians, or the enemy you are looking at, you will never see them again. Because you remember when I said a couple of weeks ago, if you defeat a problem, you'll never see it again. But if you don't defeat your fear, he will show up from time to time. If you don't defeat the fear, if you don't defeat that what is defeating you, every show so often will show up and tell you, here I am. If you don't defeat the traumas of your past, your childhood trauma by faith, from time to time they will show up and tell you, here am I. And you spend your whole life running or blaming. But as Moses said, if you defeat them today, you will never see them again. The Lord, verse 14, will fight for you, and you will need to lift a finger. And then Moses began to pray to God. But look, Moses told the people what to do, but he did not tell himself what to do. Look what God said to Moses after. Then the Lord said to Moses, quit praying and get the people moving forward. He said, this is not time for you to pray. Move forward. You are praying, but you're not doing anything about it. God said to Moses, quit praying and get the people moving. Praying, that doesn't mean that's it. It's settled. You could pray until Jesus comes for you. But if you don't move forward, if you don't take action and do something, nothing will happen. The Red Sea only opened when Moses stopped and he moved forward. I can imagine that he was praying and praying, God, do it. You pray, say, Moses, I heard your prayer already. Stop it. Move forward. In another word, unconsciously, he was picking up the mindset of the people, not doing nothing about it. Unconsciously, that 1 to 2 million people was convincing him, was changing his mindset, and to the point he was praying, but he was not moving forward. If the person who complains around you has not moved forward, maybe you become a complainer, a murmurer, and one who pray, but don't do nothing about it. God told Moses, quit praying and get the people moving. Begin to move. Why are you praying when you're supposed to be moving? You know, the faithless mindset of the people was robbing on Moses. Just be careful who you talk. And if the person you talk does not pick up your faith, most likely you become a complainer. Oh yes. Moses did not make it to the promised land because the bunch of people complaining around him took a toll on him. A big toll. He was safe. God was with him. And it's written till now. But he did not see the promised land because the complaint of the people around him took a toll on you. If you see the people complain are taking a toll of you, it's time to do something about it. It's time to shake it off and say, no, I gotta change my mindset. Amen. Let me just share another powerful verse from the book of Matthew, chapter 17, 14 to 17. And he says, when they came to the crowd, Jesus and his disciples, a man came up to him and kneeling before him said, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he has seizures and he suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire and often into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they cannot heal him. Jesus answered, faithless, twisted generation, how long I am to be with you? How long I am to bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus cast the demon and healed the boy. But before he said faithless, he told his followers, you are faithless. Because you cannot do what you're supposed to do. And let me just go to the same verse, but a different translation. Matthew 17:14-17. This is called English. Easy English Bible translation. It says, then Jesus and the three disciples reached the place where a crowd was. A man came to Jesus. He went down on his knee in front of him and said, Jesus, please, sir, be kind to my son. He cannot control his body. Sometimes he does not know what he's doing. Often he falls into the fire or falls into the water. I brought the boy to your disciples, but they could not make him well. Look what Jesus replied. Jesus replied, you people today still don't believe in God. In other words, after you have seen, you still don't believe, because your inaction shows your lack of faith. If I am inactive, it shows that there is a lack of faith. Jesus said, you people today still don't believe in God? Oh, I believe in God. No, you're not saying that you grew up with I'm saying your lack of action shows that you don't really believe. You have turned away from Him. I have been with you for a long time and still you don't believe? It is difficult for me to be patient with you, Jesus told him. Jesus told them, you've seen it over and over and over. It is difficult for, I didn't plan this to talk about this verse. It just, first time I read it, this translation in this way. It is difficult for me to be patient with you, Jesus told the three disciples with him. Then Jesus said to the man, bring the boy here to me. And Jesus healed the boy. What was the problem? The lack of faith. And the lack of faith, it is shown by me being inactive. By me not doing anything about it. Because my faith is not shown by how long I've been a Christian. It's shown by my actions. So what are we going to do? Are we going to do something about it? In faith. People do things out of emotion. In faith is believing God. Being sure that even though nobody believes, I am believing. What are you going to do? Are you going to be like Moses at that time that praying and God said, Moses, stop praying. Move forward. Stop praying. Move forward. I see people who been in a job that don't like. And they complain that the job is terrible. But they don't do something about it. What's terrible? I often tell my wife and I tell people that I have little patience for people who complain about something for a long time and they don't do nothing about it. Because if I don't like something, I have to do something about it. If I don't do something about it, why should I complain? So we all find ourselves before situations that can be terrifying, that can be very frightening. But if we don't allow the fear to stop us, freeze us, then do nothing about it, then nothing is going to change. You could blame your sister, you could blame your brother, you could blame your mother, you could blame your husband, you could blame the whole world, nothing is going to change until we do something about it. As I said, when I became conscious of my faith, when I say, it's up to me. It's up to me. And if it take me 4 years, but I will reach there. Because I'm moving. I might not move as fast as others, and doesn't matter. It's not my business. But I'm moving. I make sure that maybe I'm moving a centimeter a day, but I'm moving. I'm moving. I might not be moving fast. It don't matter. And I'm not looking at everybody and nobody. But I make sure that I'm moving. That I'm not being inactive. Or that I don't freeze. Or that you don't freeze before that situation. Even though it's frightening, fearful, shaky, it look bad, terrible. But don't allow yourself to be paralyzed in fear. Move, believing. Don't blame nobody, because that shows lack of being mature. Mature. Move forward. Believe God and move forward. Believe God and move forward. Believe God and step out of your comfort zone in faith. Step out. Step out in faith. But don't be inactive. Because that's being faithless. That's being a faithless person. Do something about it. As Jesus